Report it to the police without delay or call the CPA hotline on 227-0979. Protect children now.
A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
Kaieteur Radio, keeping you informed.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Good day. Welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. Almost 10 months after the extractive industry's transparency flagged Guyana a third time for not releasing large-scale mining contracts in the country, Vice President Bara Jagdeo on Thursday committed again to making the contracts public. Jagdeo's commitment was made at a press conference held at the Arthur Chang Conference Center. This was the second time the Vice President promised to personally intervene for the release of the fiscal terms of all large-scale mining contracts. And while Guyana has emerged as one of the world's fastest-growing economies with the development of its oil and gas sector, the World Bank, in an April 2023 report, cautioned once again that authorities must be mindful of the risks associated with over-reliance on oil revenues. Expounding on its position, the World Bank said the extractive sector is becoming the dominant source of growth and fiscal revenues. It said this increases the country's susceptibility to oil-related shocks, which requires proactive management. It was keen to know that prudent management and use of the Natural Resource Fund, as well as the strengthening of the medium fiscal management framework, are critical to preventing the economy from overheating. Further to this, the bank said that oil production has environmental consequences that must be carefully considered, adding that the sector may face additional risks as the world transitions away from fossil fuels. And coming from Reuters, a commitment from the group of 7 wealthy countries to phase out fossil fuels faster has been welcomed as a potential step towards a global deal for all countries to do the same, but is facing criticism for not matching the pledge with firm action. G7 countries' climate ministers on Sunday agreed for the first time to speed up their phase-out of fossil fuel consumption, causing climate change, although they did not set a firm date for doing this. In a joint statement at their meeting in Japan, the ministers agreed to accelerate the phase-out of unabated fossil fuels so as to achieve net zero in energy systems by 2050 at the latest. And CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Burnett says an action plan which is to be implemented across the region will be compiled at the end of a 2-day CARICOM Crime Symposium at the Hyatt Regency in Port of Spain, which ended yesterday. Barnett added that the regional leaders owed this to the citizens of their respective countries, since most CARICOM leaders spend a lot of money to fight crime, limiting their financial contributions to other important national goals in the education, health and social services sectors. Meanwhile, a 48-year-old taxi driver was killed on Monday and a passenger injured after his car turned turtle along the Soesdijk-Linden Highway. Police identified him as Alvin Dubar of Lot 5 Section B, Sarah Joanna, East Bank, Demerara. His injured passenger was identified as Rayan Khan, a 49-year-old resident of Soesdijk. Khan is presently receiving treatment at the Georgetown Public Hospital. Investigators said that Dubar was speeding north along the highway when he lost control of his silver-gray Toyota Spacio. Police said the vehicle flipped several times before coming to a halt. In other news, the Private Sector Commission has urged its members to explore new funding sources, even as it laments the lack of access to financing here. Speaking at the PSC's annual general meeting on Tuesday, Outgoing Chairman Paul Chiang said access to financing continues to be a challenge in the private sector, and government has asked the Commission to identify specific legal impediments to the law and regulatory framework with regard to the issue. Meanwhile, Chiang said the PSC has recognized the commitment shown by the government to ensure that Guyanese benefit from the oil and gas industry, but said the onus is also on the business community to support the implementation of the local content law. And Nala Staliu, a farmer of Karasabai village, Region 9, died on Monday after crashing his motorcycle into the Shewan Bridge rail in the South Pakaraima district Sunday night. The dead man has been identified as Mikey Francisco, age 57. He reportedly crashed around 20:50 on Sunday while returning home from his farm. He, along with the motorcycle, had fallen off the bridge and onto some rocks in a creek. Francisco remained pinned there underneath his motorcycle until relatives went in search for him Monday. And 2 children said to be toddlers were reportedly left traumatized after 5 gunmen on Sunday evening invaded a strip mall located at Last Entrance, North Rhymeville, Georgetown, and robbed a group of men who were playing cards. The robbery was captured on security cameras mounted on the location. The 2 children, boys, were playing with a bicycle while at least 6 men were engaged in a game of cards. While they were playing, 5 men armed with handguns and dressed in taupes and hoodies ran in and interrupted the game. They could be heard ordering the men to lie down on the ground. One of the men was even slapped as he was forced to the ground. As the victims complied with the bandits' order, one of the children began crying while the other hid behind a table. The bandits proceeded to search the men's pockets, relieving them of cell phones and whatever they had. And as usual, we wrap things up with a little bluntness by turning the pages of today's Kaieteur News to page 7. Companies with black marks. No surprise that the PPP government and Exxon love the other so much. Neither seem to be able to do anything straight, deal with clean people. Exxon's 5th FPSO contractor's name call over oil spills in Brazil. Why is Exxon contracting this debarred company for Guyana's 5th floating production, storage and offloading vessel? Where is the PPP government on something so offensive and dangerous as this? And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
Here is rigmarole Nancy story Jagdeo giving Guyanese on a simple, straightforward question.
What is the interest rate that we are paying on those investments in the oil field? And can you say if you're going to put a cap on it?
So the interest rate question, I'm familiar with that, and that's been asked. I'm not going to go down that route again. It's the same questions that keep surfacing. Today, I'm not going to deal with issues that I've dealt with before.
Then I back up that question.
I asked that similar question, the exact question my reporter asked you at the last press conference, in which I said the IMF, and all the world is asking to cap the interest rates. And when you were walking out, you did not answer it. When you were walking out, you said, Glenn, you will answer that question at the next press conference. Here you're telling us that you will answer.
All right, so about capping, I said all of these issues, the interest rate capping, it's complex. It deals with the cost of raising capital, whether it's competitively sourced, the availability of money now for the oil and gas industry. You know, many banks in the world today will not lend into fossil fuel, anything to do with fossil fuel, because they're moving away from that, their lending policy. Raising capital for this industry. We've seen in Guyana's case, you don't need to go far. The Biden administration vetoed the loan that Gisby had from the IDB, claiming that it was going to go for the oil and gas industry. And this is a local company trying to put in place only the infrastructure to service the oil and gas industry. And they got their loan vetoed. And so it's not easy to raise billions of US dollars in capital. So interest rates are reflective of the cost of raising capital. Sometimes it's better to have equity come in, and other times it's interest. It's a complex issue. But so the concern has been raised, just like all of the other concerns in the PSA that I have mentioned, that you write about every day, that I mentioned, but we have a differing view on how we address them. We address all of them now for the 9 contracts that were issued from Ramatar era, the whole Ramatar era, and Trotman, and then all of the 14, hopefully 14 new ones that we will sign. That's 23 new contracts. Will have the new law, the new PSA, all of these things about capping cost recovery, 10% royalty, all of that will be in the new one. The Stabroek block, we said before we came into government, we're not doing this. We don't want to kill the momentum. The moment you start a dispute, you kill the momentum of the industry, and everything dries up here for a while.
Banks moving away, lending in the fossil fuel industry. Joe Biden administration had to veto a loan from IDB to our local Gisbys. So how come Joe Biden giving Guyana loan for the gas to shore project? Gisby investment is not going to put money into the American pockets, so they blocked that. The Wales gas to shore is going to put money in the US bank account, so it's okay for that loan to come through. Then Jagdeo trying to tell us that interest rate and capping of it is a complex one. This man going out his mind. Every banking institution lining up, competing to lend ExxonMobil money to get a bite of the sweetness here in Guyana. But here Jagdeo tell us interest rate is a reflective of the cost of raising capital. The 23 new contracts to be signed will not have a problem getting loans. And he will make sure he cap those interest rates. But the Exxon Stabroek block, them can charge us whatever, 20-30%, our oil will pay like a donkey. Everything will be corrected and fixed for those 14 small, uncertain oil blocks. But Exxon oil field that has 600 oil blocks in it, with almost 90% of Guyana's oil inside. Jagdeo not correcting or even saying a single word on that. Let them do whatever they want to Guyana. That's the man I'm in love with. The smartest Guyana produce. Clap, clap, clap by your hands and go vote for them. Have a nice day.
Keep calm, but listen on.
Rocking the waves with Kaieteur Radio.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM.
Kaieteur Radio.
Because life is fun. With
99.5